Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Seduce Me. We're doing the Prince versus the Brute today. It's gonna be Sammy against James, but obviously we're doing Sam's route, so we kind of know who's gonna win. It's just the journey that matters this time, you know? Just the journey. So let's get into it. Of course, we'll go with the name we always go with. Mine. I've lived in the mansion for about half a year. Even after I graduated from school, life in the house became one filled with interesting events and experiences. Why? Because I lived with incubi. My summer vacation became filled with boys living in my home, cooking me food, helping me clean, and overall just being the most intriguing roommates anyone could ever have. I mean, imagine it. You walk through the kitchen to get a drink and all of a sudden a really hot guy walks in to grab something, with his equally hot brother joining after? Or you meander down a hall and a guy clad only in a towel casually steps out of the bathroom? Yeah, it's a fantasy perfect for any visual masochist who loved seeing men. However, for me, it was reality. I lived with 5 extremely hot men who happened to be demons, and I've slowly grown and adjusted to it where I wasn't internally drooling at the sight of them. It was hard, I won't lie, especially with 2 of the incubi in particular. James, the eldest, and Sam, the middle brother. Both were extremely handsome to me, but were on completely opposite ends of the spectrum as to why. James was the picture-perfect image of a gentleman. He was kind, caring, wise, and extremely conscious of everything around him to where he knew exactly how to handle any problem his way. Also, he was tall, which kind of helped in situations. Hey, James, can you help me reach the top shelf? I want to check out the dishes for any cracks.
Huh? Certainly.
His height proved to be very useful, especially when I caught him shirtless. Add on to the fact that he wore glasses, had perfectly groomed hair, spoke many different languages, and he was the new CEO of my grandfather's company. And you had perfection, all in one singular being. On the other hand, Sam was on the opposite side of the spectrum in terms of personality and lifestyle compared to James. With toned muscles and strength for days, Sam never failed to make my jaw drop with the simplest of actions. Ugh, I can't carry this.
Hey, you need help lifting that?
Huh? Yeah, I'd appreciate it. While many people imagined him to be a total ass, once you got close to him, he was actually a pretty nice guy. He worked as a police officer dedicated to serving justice, but always had time to help around the house and play video games with the 2 younger incubi. James and Sam stood out to me, and I couldn't get my mind off of either of them. Sometimes I wound up picturing both incubi charming me at once before I had to smack my head with a pillow to snap back to reality. A charming gentleman or a down-to-earth heartthrob? My heart was split. Even in my own home, I was lost in trying to decide. I couldn't have both. I knew that it wasn't fair to claim both. Deep within my heart, I understood that I could only devote my life to one, yet it temporarily yearned for 2. What the hell was I gonna do?
Hey, you alright?
Looking up, I was met with Sam gently laying a hand on my head and rustling my hair gently. His simple touch made my cheeks warm up, but I shook my head, pretending that nothing was wrong. No, I'm alright.
You sure? You look like something was seriously bugging you.
I'm fine, really.
Is there something we can help with?
Just my luck. James entered the dining room on the other side of my seat, cell phone in hand as his thumb quickly tapped a long text out to someone. Despite accomplishing this, his focus was on me, eager like Sam to know if I was okay. I half expected the others to show up as well, Sam took his hand off my head as I looked at the entrance of the dining room curiously. Seriously, guys, I'm fine. Where are the others?
Well, I just got word that Matthew's working overtime at the company, trying to perfect a toy he's been designing. Eric is at his tailor shop working on a commissioned suit, and Damien is assisting him for the evening.
So it's just us?
Yep. Got a preference for dinner? I've been craving steak.
Of course you have.
Well, I would prefer chicken tonight. We'd appreciate your opinion on the matter.
I love chicken, but we have to go with Sam, so I want steak too. I needed steak. James gave me a slight nod before walking to the kitchen in silence. Sam, on the other hand, gave me a toothy grin before walking over to the seat near me and sitting down. I was a little confused to see Sam so happy for a meal preference, but I shrugged and smiled back. James took his time in making dinner. Regardless of what he was making, James always made dinner smell absolutely delicious. I couldn't wait to dig in. I took the time to get lost in some online videos. There were a couple of cool Let's Players that I've been following, and I always managed to find time to watch them play new games, especially indie games. Totally not at all self-aware or anything. There were a large amount of girls I admired in the Let's Plays community, and I made sure to stay up to date with each of them. They deserved it after all. Sam, however, kept his focus on his cell phone for some reason, typing and waiting as if he was texting in a texting war with someone. He'd thankfully learned how to read and write, so texting was easier for him. But he was never really attached to his phone in the first place. My curiosity got the better of me. What are you doing?
Oh, just texting.
Who are you texting?
Oh, Nanya.
You're not gonna fall for the... No! You're not gonna fall for the Nanya business, please! Don't! Please, don't fall for the Nanya business! He's gonna pull it and I'm gonna feel dead. Just to let you know, I am aware he is about to pull the Nanya business joke, okay? I only have to follow it because the MC does. Nanya? Nanya who?
Nanya business.
Freaking told ya!
Sam, don't be rude.
James finally stepped in with a plate of food in each hand and a third plate on his elbow. He served me, then Sam, then set the third plate on the seat across from Sam for himself. To my surprise, James didn't make a pasta dish. James had made perfect filet mignons with mushrooms, pairing it with mashed potatoes and green beans. I felt a little underdressed just from how fancy the dish was, but that did not stop me from tucking in.
Thanks for cooking, James.
You're welcome, Sam.
Oh shit. I had to stop for a moment and look up at the two brothers just from the sound of their voices. Something was up. Is something wrong? Both, as if synchronized by my voice, turned to me in surprise before shaking their heads. Okay, this is weird.
We're fine. Just hurry up and eat, doofus.
Sam, why must you use the term doofus? It seems rather insulting, don't you think?
Wait, what?
What's wrong with it? It's just a nickname.
A -1 at best.
Guys.
There's nothing wrong with the word doofus. You're just overthinking it.
I could be, but I also tend to give people a little more respect than calling them random titles.
Guys! Silence took over at last, but the boys still kept glaring at each other as if their fight continued in their heads. What the hell was wrong with them? What the heck is going on? Why are you two fighting? No reply. It was like their mental fight turned into a war. I didn't want to make things worse by siding with one or the other without knowing what was truly going on. So I had to get out of the situation and make them solve things like the brothers they were. I'd only eaten a portion of my dinner and my appetite was already spoiled. You know what? I'm just gonna eat in my room. You two need to seriously talk and stop fighting. That seemed to break them out of their stare down. Both boys stared at me in surprise.
You don't have to...
Oh, shit. We're sorry.
Good night, guys. I'll see you both in the morning. I shook my head as I took my plate and left the dining room. Yeah, I needed to give them some space. They needed to sort out whatever hostility was between them alone. As much as I cared for them both, they were adults and they needed to figure things out on their own. I finished dinner and did some work before going to bed. Maybe tomorrow they'd be okay.
Just what the hell was that about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Don't start that ignorant bullcrap, James. I know you were trying to make me look like an ass back there.
I don't have to make you look like anything, Sam. You already do that enough yourself.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you really that obsessed about trying to show that you're better than me? That you'd stoop this low?
Trust me, if I was obsessed, you would not be able to be anywhere near this house. I'm merely trying to show my respect where it belongs and be a good role model.
Is ass-kissing what you call respect? How about treating someone like a normal person instead of shoving them onto a pedestal?
Let go of me, Almaris.
You want to start using our real names now, Raestro? I have no problem solving this like the demons we are, your fucking highness.
As much as you're threatening me to put you in your place, I'm sure that we both would not like to go down that path.
Right, because you have a reputation of being a gentleman.
I don't see a problem with having such a reputation when it's true.
Just because you're a gentleman doesn't make you better than me. I'd rather look someone in the eyes as an equal than be a perfectionist prick with a superiority complex. Fucking hell.
Maybe so. Still, that doesn't mean I will concede to you over this.
I don't plan to back down either. I guess we're at an impasse.
Indeed. We'll just have to wait and see who she chooses.
I didn't like that. I don't like seeing them fight. I like to see James as like my older brother kind of guy, you know? He's like the mother of the family, you know? I like to see him as like my older brother. And then we see Sam as like my true choice of the boys. And seeing them fight like that, no! Boys, no! I mean, I guess now we got to see what kind of fight that went down when we were in the harem episode. They did say that there was a fight between the two. I guess that was probably it. The next morning, there was a strange air in the house. Eric, Matthew, and Damien were all up and off to work at dawn as if a fire had started when the sun rose. I knew they had work, but to leave without saying bye was out of place for all of them. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, miss.
I was left alone with James and Sam again. James had taken the day off to clean the house, and Sam was off duty, claiming the front yard for his rare Tai Chi practice. Part of me hoped that they had resolved whatever issue they had. A small inkling in my gut, however, told me otherwise. James had made breakfast for us, but both he and Sam had finished and left the dining room to attend their own agendas. I ate in silence, trying to discern my own thoughts. As I finished my last bite, I slumped into my chair and sighed, wondering what the heck was going on. I didn't want to intrude, but maybe I had to this time. Maybe the problem was just that bad. I looked out the window of the dining room, catching sight of James tending to the flowers. As I turned to the archway into the main hall, I imagined Sam going outside into some meditation pose on the yard. Who was I going to approach about this? Well, we're gonna go to Sam. Sam was pretty chill with me, so I only assumed he would be more open to talk about the problem than James would have been. I walked out to the front yard, catching Sam slowly moving from energy pose to energy pose in his Tai Chi. I felt slightly guilty for walking in, but Sam called out to me without interrupting his movements.
Hey, need me for something?
No, For a moment I grew flustered. I didn't want to be rude and interrupt his Tai Chi. However, Sam froze in a pose and moved his hand to wave me over.
Come over and spit it out. I can't read your mind like Damien.
With a small grimace, I walked over beside him. Naturally, I felt myself join him in his movements as he began to work through his forms again. Still, I came out here for a reason and it wasn't to do with Tai Chi. Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Is everything okay between you and James? For a moment, Sam seemed to hesitate in his posed transition. After a small sigh, Sam stood up straight and looked at me, causing me to straighten up as well.
It's a really stupid reason, okay? James and I are kind of... I guess you can say we're fighting. But we don't want to make it bigger than it is, you know? It's just something between us.
I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? Sam stared at me in silence, but I could almost see a million thoughts running in his head through his gaze. Was the situation really that private? To my surprise, Sam lowered his gaze to the ground between us, almost as if he was ashamed of something. Was it regret to say anything at all, or was he ashamed to hold back?
Look, I really want to tell you, but it's kind of personal, okay?
Sam... I could see him try and form words in his mouth at me speaking his name, but he simply shut his eyes tightly and gritted his teeth. What was going on that had him so tied emotionally? Suddenly, Sam reached out and softly took my hands into his, staring down at them.
We don't want you to get involved, okay? It wouldn't be fair for you to get in the middle and pick sides like that. This may be a shitty situation, but we're not gonna put you in that position.
What do you mean?
I know I sound like a shitty person for pushing you away like this, but it's really not something we can get you involved in, alright?
Oh, your kiss. Sam rubbed his thumbs over the back of my hands, unable to look me in the eyes. I, however, didn't know how to feel.
You shouldn't be influenced by either of us.
What was that supposed to mean? Before I could do more, my phone began to buzz. Huh? Excuse me. Sam silently nodded and returned to his Tai Chi, as I quickly rushed inside and answered. Much to my displeasure, my parents had called me, checking up on me and asking me if I was prepared for college. I had recently graduated from high school a month prior and was on my way to college, which was a quick commute from the mansion. I rushed to my room to continue the call, knowing that my ear would be attached to the phone for a while if both my mum and dad shared it in talking to me. It escaped me how long I was on the phone with them. When I was finally able to hang up, it was already time for lunch. Great. I slowly made my way down to the dining room, thinking on something simple to eat, when my worries about Sam and James became real once again.
Would you get out of the kitchen, Sam?
Why? I'm trying to make lunch.
And that requires you to make a mess?
Hey, I'm trying to be nice and make all of us lunch, you ungrateful prick.
Oh no. I rushed into the dining room but stopped as James spoke again.
Do you think making this mess will get her appreciation?
What?
Since when the hell is that your business?
Since you decided to come in and use up the ingredients I was going to use for our lunch.
I'm sorry, alright? I just want to.
You want to try and impress her with cooking, taking away a job I do in the house in hopes to earn her affections.
So what if I am? You're not the only person in this house who can cook for her.
At least I don't have to make a mess to show my affection for her.
They both liked me?
You're such an asshole.
You're really pushing the limits of my patience, Sam.
What are you gonna do, huh?
That's it. Both of you! Stop it! The kitchen was a mess. Sam and James were nose to nose with each other, anger flaring in their eyes before they turned to me in fear. They were both caught red-handed, and I was gonna set them straight whether they wanted me to be involved or not. Both of you. Dining room. Now! I fought back the angry snarl in my voice. This was ridiculous. They were fighting each other over me? Despite feeling flattered, I was not gonna let this continue on. I glared hard at both of them, causing them to slowly make their way out of the kitchen into the dining room, heads hung low in shame. I kept my eyes on them until they both sat at the table, one seat separating them. At least they respected who still owned the house. You will both sit here in silence until I tell either of you to speak. Got it? James and Sam nodded, staring at the table like children who were about to be grounded. I, however, took some time to fix the kitchen and make quick sandwiches for lunch. It gave me time to think on my plan of attack. They both liked me. That's why they were hiding the fight from me. They didn't want me to pick sides, but now it had gotten too far. I felt conflicted. Both were being idiots about the situation. Were they that jealous of each other? Then again, they were brothers who liked the same person. I let out a sigh and placed my plate of food on the crook of my elbow while I carried out their plates to the dining room with my hands. After setting our food down, I crossed my arms and looked at both Sam and James. First of all, it doesn't matter who makes food for this house as long as it's done, without something exploding and any mess made is cleaned after. James grimaced and Sam lowered his head further, timidly scratching his head. Second, this fight between you two needs to end. I don't care who started it, but I am not someone to fight over, especially not like this. At that, James and Sam stared up at me in shock. As their mouths opened in shock, I held my hand up to ensure no sound would erupt from either party. Look, this is a really bad situation. I get it. However, fighting each other is not going to help anything. I care about both of you. A part of my heart began to break. I really did care for and love both, but eventually I was going to have to choose one. This was going to hurt. So, I'm going to need some time to think about this. No matter how this goes, I hope you'll both respect my decision. They stared at me, but they nodded in unison. As the situation hit them, they slumped their shoulders and returned their focus down to the table. Do either of you have anything to say now?
No, miss. Just that we are extremely sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry. Take as much time as you need, alright?
Thank you. This was a very sad decision. James was the gentleman who treated me like no other man had before. But Sam was the kind of man who made me feel safe and kept me down to earth. Time began to fly by without me noticing it. I remained silent to both of them about my choice for days. Weeks. They respected my silence and remained civil to each other. I truly cared for both. And yet, I knew one of them made me feel special. While the love I had for the other was deep, the affection I had for the man I truly adored seemed to be endless. How did it take me this long to figure this out? I stayed at my bedsheets lost in thought. I had made up my mind, yet I was worried about hurting the one I didn't choose. No. It was okay. They wouldn't hold any ill will against me or the one I chose. I knew deep in my heart that was the case. I just had to be brave and follow my heart. And my heart wanted Sam. I slowly made my way down the stairs, hoping to catch one of the boys in the dining room or kitchen. Huh? Oh!
Oh, hello, miss.
I smiled softly. He seemed to be relaxed. Hey, James. We stared at each other for a long moment before James smiled and gestured to the backyard.
Sam is outside.
Oh. He knows. Oh, he knows. Oh, that hurts. That actually hurts. I feel so bad. I'm sorry, James. Huh?
I am well aware of your affections for Sam, miss. It is much deeper than I could ever imagine receiving.
Hey. I walked up to him and placed my hand on his cheek, frowning softly. I still care about you, James. Despite carrying sad eyes, James nodded and smiled in return.
And I you. No, you should go to him and let him know how you feel. He deserves to hear it now.
A part of me felt relieved to know that James was going to be okay. I nodded to him and raised my arms to him, offering a hug. James was much taller and his embrace completely warmed me. James wrapped his arms around me in a friendly hug, giving me a quick squeeze before releasing me and bowing. After he stood back up, James made his way to the dining room. At that moment, I knew I was okay. Sam? At my call, I pinned my sights onto the man in question. He was staring at the moon, breaking his thoughts to turn to me and my voice.
Huh? Hey, what's up?
I couldn't help getting a small grin on my face. Well, Sam, I want to tell you something.
What is it?
I took a breath. It was answering a question long overdue. My heart was skipping beats and my face began to warm in a slight blush. This was it. Sam, I choose you. A moment of silence. Sam stared at me in shock at my words, taking in what I'd said. My chest finally relaxed and joy slowly took over my expression. With a grateful look and a grin, Sam gently held out his hand to me.
I promise to do everything I can to make you happy. Thank you.
Oh, he literally sounds like so... I can hear the emotion in the voice and... I'm fine. No, Sam. Thank you for loving me. Something in my heart clicked. I'd made the right choice. What would happen between us? All I knew was that I would find a perfect happy ending in his arms. And chaining the monster. I knew it. I love this. So that was Seduce Me the Prince versus the Brute. Sam's route? That was actually really interesting. We don't ever see the brothers really fight or get into any bad disagreements in the first game, so obviously it's really interesting to see this alternate timeline. And yes, this is an alternate timeline because obviously in the original game we obviously do pick one of them before it gets to this point. And obviously there's always the drama between Diana, and even if this is after the drama with Diana, then that means even more so that it's not canon because, we would have picked a guy by then. But yeah, it's really nice to see these other timelines where, what could have happened if we'd left our decision longer. It's really nice to see this. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And as of right now, I'm recording this. I have one more of the side stories left to do. I don't know. You probably would not have seen all of them by now. Some of them might not be posted yet, because I'm going to be trying to post them in chronological order to the timeline of the games themselves. So, I don't know what order you'll see this video in, but no, I am recording all of them. I have one left to record as of right now, which I'm about to do after this. So, I hope you enjoyed. Stay sharp, slice your problems, and I will see you in the next video. From the Silent Swordsman. Goodbye! Japs?